Hi, welcome to the Big Three podcast with Adarsh and Adam, bringing you all things cricket. Today we're going to be talking about, amongst other things, the ICC Champions Trophy, the issue of Australia, the Australian media in the Indian cricket team, and the Australian media in general, and player retirements, and maybe touching on a bit of the Pakistan South Africa ODI series. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. What about you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Not bad. On holiday now, so I'm
Yeah,
enjoying
happy
things.
Christmas, by the way.
Oh
Merry
yeah,
Christmas.
thanks.
What is Happy Christmas?
Yeah,
What is Happy Christmas? I'm preparing for Happy New Year.
yeah, thanks you too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we were going to do the most unexpected retirements in cricket. So
Yeah,
so I'll go first
yeah,
for the
sure.
first one, and then you'll go in second. So for the first one, I'll go first, and then for the second one, you'll go first. Is that
Okay,
okay?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So for most unexpected retirements in cricket, I'll go first with AB de Villiers. I think this is a no-brainer for me because he was probably at his peak throughout his career, and he
Mm,
retired at what, 32, 33. He retired at
yeah,
32, and it didn't seem like he played IPL cricket for around 4 more years, and it didn't look like he had faded one bit. And it just,
yeah.
I think he had a retina problem in his eye, which is why he retired. And obviously, I think he was a bit jaded from not having won an ICC trophy for so long, even after doing so much. So I think that might have been part of the reason why it happened. But for me,
Mm.
that has to be the most shocking retirement. What about you?
Well, that's an interesting one. I hadn't thought of AB de Villiers. I'd gone with Graham Swan. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, he's second on my list. Yeah,
Yeah, because he was playing this Ashes series, and at that time England were winning a lot of Ashes under Addy Flower.
yeah,
But this one had gone wrong. They'd gone down under, and they were 3-0 out after three tests. They'd already lost the Ashes, so decided to retire, and he was almost seen as like someone kind of leaving a sinking ship, just going home, like some guy I don't know on the Titanic who steals a women's clothing and just jumps on a boat and gets away when his all the people on the boat drown. That's the kind of way it was looked at in England, really. So that was a bit shocking. He said he had a kind of problem with his elbow or arm, but well, maybe just not go on the tour in the first place or wait till the tour's finished. So that was a bit of a shock, really, for me.
yeah. And it had a bit of an escapist mindset to it.
Mm,
Like he wanted to, like you said. I have heard. I didn't watch cricket back then because I was four, and
yeah,
but it felt like he was just jaded, and it feels a bit odd because from what I've heard, he used to be a kind of a bully figure in the dressing room, and I don't understand how a bully can have mental health problems. So yeah, I guess that was karma striking back at him. Um, my second pick would be Ashwin. Yeah, I'd go for Ashwin second pick because obviously, like we discussed last week, I think no one expected him to retire on the third test, and for me, it was that he would have retired after playing the home season next year,
yeah.
and that was what most people thought, honestly. And he didn't have much reason to retire, honestly, because he had one bad home season, and that also he I think he scored a century in the first game, a really good century, which helped India
Mm.
win the game. So to me, that looked very surprising.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me too. I suppose you could counter that by the fact he's 38, so
Yeah,
that's quite old for a cricketer. But it's very unusual for someone to retire mid-series,
yeah,
especially when they're like a legendary figure.
yeah,
They usually like a send-off, or at least one more game where it's kind of a telegraph that they're going to go. It's unusual just to leave halfway through a big series.
yeah,
I know his dad said something about it. I think his dad was intimating that he was kind of he felt like a bit rejected.
yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe that was the reason.
Yeah, I'd say that he might, like I said in the last episode, I think Ashwin's been treated a bit like an outcast in the team. And if you see the way he behaves, he has a YouTube channel, and he looks kind of someone who's beyond the shenanigans in the dressing room, which
Mm.
happen, the politics of the dressing room, basically. Anyways, so what's your second pick?
I've gone for Carl Hooper. I don't know if many people remember this, but he retired just before the '99 World Cup. It was amazing. He was a really good player,
Yeah,
and especially in one day where his kind of a exciting batting plus he bowled off spin, and he retired just on the eve of it. And then what made it stranger is he then came back a few years later. and the whole thing was just a bit odd for me. It was odd the timing of his retirement just before a World Cup, and then it's odd that he then comes back again. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what the reason was, but it was definitely a shock at the time.
Yeah, I do not have much information about Carl Hooper. I was looking at earlier retirements, but I haven't watched that much cricket from earlier, so I couldn't know much of that. I just know he was a wicket keeper, right? Or
He was a batter who could bowl, so almost like a batting all rounder. Really bowled some off spin.
okay, I have heard the name a lot, but I
Yeah.
didn't know much of his cricket. So yeah, um, I'll go for my third pick, and it'll be Corey Anderson because
Uh-huh.
he was what 30, 31 when he retired,
Yeah.
and he wasn't the elite player which you have in cricket who you will be surprised by the like Ashwin, but he was more like out of nowhere he just retired and went on to the USA to play cricket. I think
Yeah,
that
that was
was
funny.
yeah,
He's
that
making
felt
it now as a player.
yeah, must have been paid by bookies or something like Brendan Taylor. I think there was this story which came out of Brendan Taylor, which he was offered money by a Indian bookie to start a league in Zimbabwe, the Zim Afro-Titan League, which has already been started by the way, so no one cares. Anyways, yeah, so his retirement to me was very shocking.
Yeah, but did you think he knew that he could play cricket in America, or he retired and then looked at playing cricket in America afterwards?
I think he knew because
Yeah.
he was just looking to maximize his financial earnings.
Mm. Okay. It was funny seeing him in that T20 World Cup this year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So what's your third pick?
I've gone for Andy Flower because it was almost like a forced retirement. He was playing for Zimbabwe, and he had this black armband on to protest about Robert Mugabe.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and after that, he just had to retire because during the 2003 World Cup, he decided to have his own protest. Him and Henry Alonga, where they'd wear these black armbands
Yeah.
when they were playing, and it just wasn't really safe for them to play for Zimbabwe again. So he had to retire, which was a real shame because he was a top player. That guy.
Oh, well, I didn't know much of his retirement, but he seems like a very shrewd person, so
Yeah,
maybe that might have played a part. But for my third pick is this my third pick or fourth pick? Fourth, right?
this yeah, you've had
Yeah, it's my
Corey
fourth pick.
Anderson, Ashwin, and you've had AB de Villiers. This is your fourth one.
Yeah, so I'll go for Dhoni in Test cricket because he retired mid-series 2014,
Hmm.
and people expected him to let go of captaincy. That's not a question, but no one expected him to retire from Test cricket altogether. And yeah, I think it was discussed heavily, and there was this spot fixing scandal, obviously, which I have spoken a lot about
Mm,
in an earlier video. But yeah, just everyone who I speak to, they say that Dhoni was not. No one expected. It's like Kohli retiring right now after this game, and even it'll be less shocking. Kohli
yeah,
retiring right now. That's how big it was back then.
yeah. And also remember him. He kind of came out of retirement and played in that 2019 World Cup, didn't he?
Um,
Because he
I don't think so.
no, because
He,
he wasn't the Indian keeper for a while, was he? Leading up to that T20, the 50 over World Cup in 2019. Did he like come back in the last year or two?
um, I what I do not recall about that much about that
Hmm.
honestly.
Okay, because I remember that Kartik was keeping for a period of time, and it was almost like Dhoni had come back, and Steve
And
Waugh criticised him and
from
said,
whatever I remember, in the 2019 starting, in the start of 2019,
Mhm.
there was this series against Australia. Two series
Mm,
actually. I don't know
yeah,
why we play Australia so much, but
yeah.
there was this series, and he played both of them from what I remember, and he was
Oh, but
playing.
I mean, like the year before. So say what he wasn't playing for India for 4 years leading up to that T20, that 50 over World Cup, was he?
I
I think
think you
he.
might be mistaken because I had seen him play for the
Yeah,
entirety of 2018. There was this Asia Cup where he captained India also.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it was just that then.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your fourth pick then?
I'll go for uh, Mark Taylor. I don't remember Mark Taylor,
Yeah,
the
I
old
do
Australian
remember Mark
opener.
Taylor.
Yeah, now a commentator.
Hmm.
One of the actually nicer Australian commentators, I think. But he got like a 330 or something against Pakistan and declared on himself as captain. He could have broken Lara's record, but decided to try and to win the game. And Just after that series, he retired. He was only 33, just scored a 300, and this was at the time where Australia were becoming the best side in the world, um, and he just retired. I thought he could have gone on for another 2 years, really. So that was a bit of a surprise to me. And then Steve Waugh took over. So yeah, that was just a bit of a surprise for me at the time.
Yeah, I think that my next pick is going to be very similar to that because
Mm,
his the same follows for both of them. So I'm just going to say the name. It's
mm,
Michael Clark, and
yeah,
the same thing applies because I think Clark had a golden run for whatever
mm,
5 6 years, right? He scored
yeah,
triple centuries and whatever. And the
yeah,
same thing, like you said, for Mark Taylor. I think, like Taylor also said, and Clark's also said that both of them wanted to end on highs. They didn't want
yeah.
to stretch their careers for too long, which is going
Mm,
to be ironically our next topic. So yeah, I think that
yeah.
is what happened with him, honestly.
Well, maybe that was it. But um, he seemed very much a kind of team man
Yeah.
and a kind of unselfish type of player and captain, really.
Yeah, definitely didn't overstay his welcome. What's
No,
your
no.
what's your fifth one?
I've gone for. Oh, this is, I think, the funniest one. Ashgar Afghan during the T21 World Cup, where he retired halfway through the tournament. Don't you
Oh
remember? I think he
yes.
retired before he played
Yeah,
India.
yeah, yeah. I
That
remember
was
him.
amazing. It was like, can't you hold on till the end of the tournament? And I
Yeah.
couldn't believe the ICC allowed them to bring in a replacement. It was like, well, it's not an injury.
Yeah.
He's just retired. I don't know
That
why.
just blanked out of my memory. I
Yeah,
remember him. He used to bat, right, and bowl a very little bit.
yeah,
Or he was the captain for Afghanistan for a long time, from whatever I remember.
yeah. But it was just weird that I don't know much else about him other than just seeing him now and again in the
Do you,
tournament. It was just so surprising that he retired halfway through it. You think, well, might as well just continue.
yeah, it's pretty similar to Mohammad Shahzad. Do you remember him?
I remember the name. Yeah,
Yeah, so do you remember, like, he used to be he used to be compared to MS Dhoni, and he scored a
mm,
couple of centuries. I think
mm,
in the T10 league he scored a 15 12 balls or something. So it was
yeah,
spoken about a lot,
yeah,
119 balls, but
yeah,
somehow he had some problems with the Afghanistan board, and he also
yeah,
left. So yeah, but he didn't retire officially, so I guess he didn't doesn't get into this list.
yeah.
Now,
Because we can't.
I'll just say the names which I didn't say
Yeah.
because we all chose 5 names
Yeah.
and 10 names actually, and said only five. You can also do that. I
Okay.
think chose Keyswetter also,
Oh yeah.
and Flintoff, Dravid,
Yeah.
McCullum, and Atherton. What about you?
Atherton's good.
What were your other
I
picks?
had Nasser Hussain, who did a really good trick. He was under pressure, scored a match-winning 100, then retired directly afterwards,
Yeah,
which is quite a good trick. Phil Tufnell, who retired from cricket to go on a celebrity kind of reality TV show called "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here,"
yeah,
and Alistair Cook, um, who I thought retired maybe a year or two early. Damien Martin, who retired halfway through a series again, but unlike Swan, his side were 3-0 up rather than 3-0 down,
yeah.
so there was more kind of honour in it. And I think Henry Alonga, just because like Flower, he couldn't play again after protesting about Mugabe.
Okay. So I guess we should move to the expected list now, and
Okay.
you start because I started with the unexpected one,
The unexpected retirement.
the
Well,
dragged one, the
oh
basically
sorry, oh
players.
the dragged out retirement.
Yeah,
I think I mean, this is going to be a bit controversial, but I think Anderson was one of them, in a sense that he, during the 2023 Ashes tour series, he
yeah,
got 5 wickets in 4 tests, and it looked like he was past his best. He was then just under 700 test wickets, so he went on tour to India, and he got, I think, 10 wickets on that tour, and he got to 700. But even though he bowled quite economically, India still won the series 4-1. And you would have thought that was he should have either gone at the end of that Ashes or then. But he still wanted to go on, and so England gave him another test against the West Indies, just like a one test, which was a bit weird as well because you would have thought give him a series or just retire him before that. So I think that seemed a bit kind of dragged out to me and not satisfactory.
to be fair, I
Mm,
I thought that he should have
mm,
played all 3 tests, and
Mm,
tests. But after the Ashes, I think everyone was saying this, that he's past his expiry date and
mm.
he needs to go. But I think he was England's best bowler in India, so I
Yeah,
would have,
yeah.
yeah, so I would have kept him for the series. But yeah, I guess a lot of people say that as well. So
And I
that's
think
it. Yeah,
there's sympathy because they got rid of him but kept Wokes, and
yeah,
he's also
yeah.
someone who won't
That
be
was
touring
a
Australia,
bit
so it was a bit
strange.
strange. Yeah, so he gets sympathy there, I think.
Yeah. So my first pick will be this. This is going to be very
Mm.
controversial. Sachin Tendulkar. I
Oh
think
wow.
that, yeah, I think that he should have retired after the 2011 World Cup. He had everything. He won the World Cup, and he just
Yeah,
stayed in for one landmark, which was the 100 centuries mark. And
yeah,
if you speak to any Indian
mm.
uncle who's seen him play, they admire him, but they'll say the same thing. He played for the 100 centuries mark in the final stretch of his career, and
I,
in my opinion, like, he went on far too long.
I was there where he almost got it. It was at the Oval. It's a Test series in 2011, and he was on 90 odd not out, and Tim Bresnan got him at LBW,
Yeah.
and half the stadium left. It was so funny. As soon as that happened, every Indian fan left the Oval. It was really funny because India had already lost the series, and they were there just to see Tendulkar get those hundreds, like an historic event.
Yeah.
But he got out LBW. And I don't even think it was LBW really to Bresnan. It was like a tight one, and then it was just amazing seeing all that crowd leave. But he did manage to get it, like I think it was against Bangladesh or someone
Yeah, in the Asia Cup.
in the Asia. Yeah, so he got it a few weeks later, so that was okay.
Yeah, please do not attack me for this. I'm just giving my original views.
Yeah,
And so my second pick will
yeah.
be, oh, it's your pick, right? Yeah,
Oh,
yours.
okay, I'll go for. See what I got. I think Morgan was my second pick. Um, Owen Morgan, because he'd kind of top captain, but his back, he had these back injuries, and he wasn't the player he was. And I think really he should have signed off at the end of the T20 2021 tournament.
Yeah, yeah,
He wanted to do it, I think, and
definitely.
he thought they were going to win it. And they were a bit unlucky in that semi, not through bad decisions or anything, but I think the toss was crucial. And I think he really wanted to sign off as winning that trophy rather than losing it. So he continued, but he continued, and he had to retire a few months later anyway, and he should have just gone then. So I think he dragged that out by 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, that, and I don't know if you saw the 2021 IPL, because
Mm.
he was playing for KKR and he had an absolutely horror run. I don't know what he
Yeah, I
averaged,
remember that. Yeah,
but he averaged something like 5 or 4, and he had a
yeah,
strike rate of 70 or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So it was like Mohammad Siraj batting, and
yeah.
it completely, like, it. He looked like he was done.
Yeah,
Just
because
from
it's
a
sad
captain.
because you don't want to continue playing when you were a good player,
Yeah,
and you've lost so much that it looks a bit embarrassing compared to your previous high standards.
yeah. But I think he was still a good captain, because he took
Oh yeah,
Kolkata Knight Riders to the final in that tournament as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So my second pick will be, let me go for Shahid Afridi, and I think that this is going to be agreed by a lot of people. He retired like a gazillion amount of times. He
Yeah,
retired, came back, and
yeah,
and yeah, I just think that his retirement, like, this is a thing which most Asian players and generally Pakistan
mm,
players are guilty of, and
yeah,
I think that he just should have retired around that 2015 World Cup. He should have
mm,
retired. Shouldn't have played after that.
yeah. I think I think Steve Orr said that. He said that there's a different a concept of retiring uh, in Australia than there is in Asian countries.
Yeah,
He said retirement isn't final in Asian countries,
yeah.
and he said that can actually be work to their detriment.
It
Because
isn't in America also, right? I think Tom
no,
Brady has come out of retirement like n amount of times.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's true. Maybe it's just an Australian English type thing that you just retire and you stay retired.
Stokes will disagree.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, and then I've also gone for well, this is along the similar lines to your Shahid Afridi one. Wazim Akram and Waki Yunis, and
You're clubbing them together, right?
yeah, I'll put them together so we can
Yeah.
put, you can have them as two or one if you like. But it was just the fact that a bit like Shahid Afridi, and it got to the stage where 3 years beforehand, or 2 years beforehand, Walsh and Ambrose had come to England, and everyone knew that was it, and everyone gave them a guard of honour, and they knew they'd never be coming to England again, and they were lauded. The last time Waka and Wazim came to England, people weren't sure. They weren't sure whether they were going to continue, whether they were going to, and they did continue, but then also their ages. So we've been watching Wazim and Wakim Waka, all that time, and they still said they were 30. And it was like, you're not 30. So
Yeah, yeah.
technically, you think they're 30, but really, I think they might have been 34, 35. So, but if they're 30, then you can't give them a guard of honor and say you're going to retire soon because they've still got 5 years left. But in
Yeah.
reality, I don't think they really did. I think they were closer to Ambrose and Walsh's age, but for some reason, it kept saying 30. And uh, I, I don't know what the real age was, but really don't think it was 30. So for all those reasons, and then also Wazim had been a kind of accused of kind of
Match
spot
fixing.
fixing, yeah, and spot fixing. So it was sad that these two bowlers who were great bowlers, as good as most other bowlers ever, um, weren't given the same kind of send off as Walsh and Ambrose, simply because of all these different factors. And it was just a bit sad, really, because in one way they did deserve it, despite all the other things.
Yeah, and didn't Wasim Akram have a very like a very short run up in the end of his career? Like he didn't have a run
Yeah,
up at all. Like he came in, walked in, and bowled. Yeah, so I heard about that, but I didn't know much about it because I was not watching cricket live back then. So yeah, I'll
yeah,
just go with your with what you think there. Um, my next pick will be Shoaib Malik, and yeah, he's kind of the same as Shahid Afridi because
yeah,
he played long past what he
yeah,
should have. He should have played till the 2019 World Cup and just
yeah.
retired gracefully. He still wants to play, by the way. He's 44, 43, 44, and he wants to come back again. And I'm like, what made just leave Pakistan cricket alone for your sake and everyone's sake? Yeah. Do you have
And
anything to
then
say about that?
I think, yeah, because he's a good player, but I think these players just are kind of they're messing with their own legacy by doing this, aren't they? That's the only thing.
Yeah. So what's your
Yeah.
next pick?
Um, uh, not as an unexpected one, but as a dragged out one.
Yeah.
Um, I think in the end
I didn't
he was
catch what you
past his
said.
best when he was in that.
Whose
Yeah,
name
I
is?
think he was past his best in the 2019 World Cup myself, and I think we always remember that dive
Oh,
where he almost he got run out against New Zealand.
yeah.
But he had made it. He got a 50 odd, didn't he, in that innings? So it almost paid off.
Yeah.
But I think he was a bit past his best in that tournament myself.
Yeah. So what's your next pick?
Um, I'm gonna say it's slightly controversial, but Broad. I think Broad he got dropped by England. England decided to move away from Broad and Anderson um, just before McCollum took over. Andy Strauss took temporary charge with Collingwood, and he dropped those two and said they should start building for the future.
Yeah.
And Broad wrote this really oh, kind of entitled piece in the Sunday newspaper about why he shouldn't have been dropped and how disgraceful it was and everything. But he had come back from losing 4-0 in Australia. Now he was a top bowler and everything, but he was also 36, 37. So it kind of it was a bit ungracious, I thought. To be fair to him, he had a good Ashes and then retired after a good Ashes in 2023.
Yeah.
So in the end, he retired at the right time. I just thought it was a bit ungracious when the side wanted to move on, that he didn't kind of accept that with kind of good grace and accept that it's nothing personal, but you're just trying to build for the future.
Yeah. I would say that he was. I would say that he played maybe 1 year extra than what he should have. I think he should have
Yeah,
retired after the test against India, which was in 2022, or even the South Africa series for that matter. He could have retired after
yeah,
that.
because he could have done because that would have been a nice way to go in a sense that he went on his own terms.
Yeah.
Because they
But
beat
still,
South
I
Africa
think he had
on then.
a fairy tale retirement kind of.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So he managed to get that in the end.
Yeah. So my fourth one will be I'll pick Alistair Cook, and And
Mm.
you picked him on the unexpected list, but I'm
Yeah.
going to pick him on the dragged list because for whatever little period I saw Alistair Cook play, and I've not seen his peak. I
Mm.
started seeing him from 2016. He
Oh.
just looked like a sitting duck to me, and I'm not
Yeah.
insulting him in any way because I've not seen him speak and I can't speak on that.
Yeah.
But from 2016 on, he just looked like, I wondered why is this guy in the English team, because
Mm.
someone comes in and bowls outswingers to him and he just nicks off.
Mm.
And yeah, for me, he scored a 240 against Australia on
Mm.
one of the most flattest pitches in the
Mm.
world in
Mm.
Sydney. And yeah, I think he should have retired after the Ashes. But
It's a funny one because he was still young, but it's when you start young. So he was 33 and a half when he retired, but maybe
yeah,
his body was really 35, 36,
yeah,
in the sense that he'd started very young and been in the England side all that time and
yeah,
been captain, all the stresses of captaincy and everything. So it wasn't like a lot of players who get dropped for the odd series and then come back again. He was just in that side right the way through,
yeah,
from about 2006 to 2018 or something.
yeah. So what's your next pick?
Next pick, uh, I'm going to go for both of them, even though he didn't officially retire. So he was like a legend of the game, but was still playing when he was about 37, 38. And he'd put a bit of weight on, and he was really getting wickets more with like nous than anything else. He'd lost his swing. Kind of his belly was hanging out, his bum was hanging out, and
Yeah,
it was just a bit
yeah,
sad that such a legendary player is still playing like that. His kind
yeah,
of his charisma and everything got him through, but also
yeah,
what happened was he kept getting dropped and recalled at that stage. You think someone like him should just go out at the top, um, and he could have gone maybe. Well, he was okay in the 92 World Cup. So what he could have done is just stopped playing tests in, I don't know, 88 and continued playing one day till 92 and retired. But he was just
yeah,
like on and off, on and off, on and off. And for someone new, say like you said, you only saw the end of Cook's career. Someone who just saw the end of Botham's career would think, what's the fuss about? But if they'd seen him in the 70s and 80s, they'd say, this guy's great.
yeah. From whatever I hear about Botham is that I think what may have played a part there is that he might have thought that I have not maximized my peak, because he had a very, very high ceiling. He could have become the
Yeah,
best all rounder, better than Callis, people say that.
yeah,
But he just partied his way through his 20s, and I think that was part of the reason why he wanted to stretch it out as much as he could. He might be in denial by the end of his career, in my opinion.
yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah. So my last pick will be Chris Gale, and I say this because I have seen his peak also and his drop off also, because in the he should have retired after the 2019 World Cup, and it was
Yeah,
basically he was playing the 20. I remember he was bowling off spinners to Australia and was dancing after taking a wicket, and I was like, what? Like it
yeah. Did
looked
you?
like
That was
complete
that
mockery.
T21. That was the T21 T20 World Cup, wasn't it? He
Yeah,
got Warner out and then jumped on his back when he was
yeah,
walking back to the
yeah.
commentary.
Warner, yes. Yeah, it just felt like he just wanted to carry on as much as possible, and same
Yeah,
in T20 leagues as well. I think he's still playing right now, and I'm like, he's 47 or 46. Imran Tahir, he's a bit like Imran Tahir, and Imran Tahir is what,
yeah, yeah. I remember him. Yeah, the South African spinner who's
he's 48,
Pakistani.
right? And he's still
Yeah,
playing leagues and all that. So just he's older than you, 7 years
yeah.
old. So
That is old. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
uh,
Chris Gale's a good call.
huh? Yeah,
Chris Gale's a very good call. Yeah, I think you could have said that about a lot of those players
yeah,
in that West Indies side that went on. They were the holders, but because the T20 because of COVID, the T20 World Cup was delayed by a year, so it was 5 years since they last won it.
yeah,
And they had like Bravo, Gale. I don't know if Samuels was still there, Russell, Pollard, and they're all a bit past it really.
yeah.
And
They had a feud with the West Indies board, right?
yeah, maybe that was it as well. But
Yeah.
they were all a bit kind of old really.
Yeah. So honorable mentions for me would be Sunil Gavaskar, Ricky
Mm,
Ponting, Shoaib Akhtar, Mohammad Hafiz, and Mashrafi Mortaza.
yeah, not bad. I think yeah, Ponting's funny. I think he just retired when they lost the Ashes in 2011, didn't he, in
Yeah.
Australia? I think he might have retired with a test left and just given the captaincy to Clark from
Yeah.
memory, anyway, something like that.
So what are your honorable mentions? The people left in your list.
I think Rion King.
Could you do the accent and say the names?
I can't- I think when I remember, I was in I don't know, at work, and someone came in. They knocked on the door, and they asked to speak to our manager,
Yeah,
and the manager just looked shocked, and he came out and just said, guys, come in, come in. I've got something to tell you." And we all kind of stood up and went to his office, went to his room, and he said,
yeah.
"I'm sorry to tell you, Rion King's retired." And some of the girls in the office were crying. We all had to take like 5 minutes, and it was just a really emotional time. But that's what I remember about Rion King retiring.
What? I thought that Rion King was a imaginary character in your world.
He was real. He was a real player.
Oh, okay. So what are your honorable mentions then?
It was it was really Rion King was the main one really. But I think there was another kind of unfortunate one, David Gower, where he was kind of messed about near the end of his career, and he he was such a good player, and again, him, Botham, and Gatting, who were good players for England, were kind of maybe went on a bit too long, or maybe not, but they were kept getting dropped and recalled, and it was
Yeah,
just like a sad ending where you think they should have had a kind of send off, especially Gower anyway,
yeah.
um, and he never got it. So honourable mention to Gower really.
Okay. So I guess we can go on to the cricket media feud,
Yeah.
Kohli versus Australia and the entire team. So what happened basically was that Virat came in and he saw a lot of cameras with his entire family. And I think for people who don't know, Virat
Mm,
Kohli has never shown the pictures of his babies or his
mm,
kids to the world because he thinks
mm.
that the public life should be something which they consent to when they are 18. They shouldn't be forced to have a public life, and they
He's
want to
right about
protect
all
them
that.
from
Yeah.
the public. So that's why he deliberately has told the Indian media to not film him with his family. So, but the Aussie media was filming him, but they weren't filming his child, and he was a bit angry. He confronted journalists, and when they said that they were not filming the child and they showed the footage, he was okay with it. But they've
Mm,
blown it massively out of proportion, and then there's so many articles saying that Indian cricket star fumes bullies
mm,
of
mm,
cricket, and I'm like, just feels like a bit of bit of trying to sledge the opposition. Basically, the media is acting as a mm, acting as if they're the same team with the Aussie team. And
mm,
the second bit which happened, I think this happened yesterday or the day before yesterday, where Jadeja was supposed to be on a do an interview, but he can't
mm,
speak English, so
mm,
they thought of asking some questions, the Aussie
mm,
media, but they were invited also, but they weren't allowed to ask questions in the end
mm,
because of this entire feud. And then
mm,
they said that, well, he should have answered. There's two sides to it. Basically, he couldn't answer in English, but they had an interpreter also. In my
yeah.
opinion, they should allow him to answer because fair press is only necessary. And the last
Mm,
bit which happened was there was a press match scheduled between the two press teams of India
mm,
and Australia to calm down the tensions, but
mm.
the Indian media rejected it. They wanted to boycott it. I just feel like it's a whole lot of things which shouldn't be
Yeah.
happening, but it just builds the series even more, raises
Mm.
the TRP.
I think what's interesting is like no other media. The Australian one feels like, especially the ex-players, they're still part of their camp.
Yeah,
It's really amazing. I don't think there's any other media that does it. There's
yeah,
a lot of media attention from the English media on Australians when they come over because of the Ashes rivalry, but you never get, I don't know, players like Gower or Vaughan or Atherton or Hussain sledging or an Australian player when they're here. They're always quite cordial with them,
yeah.
but you get the impression with the Australian ones. I think they're used to it as players. I remember Shane Warne in the 2013 Ashes was sledging Ian Bell right the way through because he used to sledge him when they played against each other. Even
Fat
though
match
Bell,
fixer.
yeah, but Bell got 300 that series and England won 3-0, and he was
Yeah.
still sledging all the way through. Oh, I don't know if he's got the temperament for Test cricket and things like that. You're thinking, oh come on, you're being paid to be like. We want to know your kind of your knowledge, your specialist knowledge, especially about things like spin.
And he's actually pretty knowledgeable. Like he speaks good
Yeah,
shit on
very knowledgeable.
commentary.
Yeah, definitely very knowledgeable. Knows about got great tactical acumen, but they just can't help themselves. I don't think when they're in the press. Steve Orr's the same whenever he's interviewed about someone, and
Yeah.
so I think Mark Taylor's the only one that's a kind of a fair guy. I think. Do you?
Yeah, yeah, I do as well. And when you see the commentary on Fox Cricket, it just feels like everyone there's Kerry O'Keefe who
Yeah,
cracks a lot of
yeah,
jokes, but other than that, you have Brendan Julian, and I
mm,
think they have Mark Howard, and they
mm,
bring in other people sometimes. But yeah, it just feels like there's Mark Waugh as well. I think he also is
yeah,
very very Australian kind of. So yeah, I'd say
yeah,
most of their commentary boxes like that. But also, just in the commentary bit, I find Ian Ward equally annoying.
He's annoying, but in a different way, isn't he? He doesn't deliberately sledge anyone. He's just too kind of superficial.
Yeah, irritating. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Also, Australia have announced their squad for the next two tests, and McSweeney has been dropped, and
Mm,
Sam Constas has been brought in, like we said.
mm,
But for the wrong person, I think that
mm,
Khawaja should have been dropped, and a lot of controversies happened in Australia as well. People are saying that why should the 25-year-old suffer, but
mm,
not the 38-year-old who averages
yeah,
12 in the last year?
yeah,
And I resonate with that definitely because Khawaja at best will play the last two tests, and if there's the WTC final, he'll play that. So there's
yeah.
no point just playing him for sentiment, in my opinion, because
No.
you'd rather, if there was the situation where you think that Nathan McSweeney isn't suited to test level,
Mm,
then remove both of them, bring in
yeah,
Cameron Bancroft or Marcus
yeah,
Harris, someone like that. But
yeah, yeah.
keeping Khawaja and dropping Nathan McSweeney doesn't sit well with me.
No, and I think he's been a bit of a walking wicket this series,
Yeah,
hasn't he, Roger? And again, he's 38, so it's not like a big criticism of it. Everyone's time comes, doesn't it?
yeah. Uh, so now on the Champions Trophy
Mm,
schedule, like we mentioned, so there's just the schedule. Basically, like the notable fixtures are opening match Pakistan versus New Zealand,
mm,
which happens on February 19th. Pakistan India. So basically, the groups are India, Pakistan, New Zealand,
mm.
and Bangladesh. And
Yeah.
I think the second group is Australia, England, South Africa, and West Indies.
No, no, no. West Indies are in it. Afghanistan.
Oh yeah,
West Indies didn't
Afghanistan.
qualify, sadly.
Yeah, West Indies didn't qualify, right? Yeah, yeah,
Sadly for Rion King.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think that the second group is a bit tougher than the first
yeah,
group.
yeah, definitely. It's one of because you got Australia and South Africa who are well, Australia are the world champions. I don't know. I don't know how what their form like in white ball cricket is at the moment because everyone plays kind of their reserve teams in bilateral tournaments. They don't always play their first teams because England
Yeah.
played Australia in September, and both of them had kind of half first team, half not. So it's hard to tell how good anyone is at the moment in it. But people have played their proper teams in this one, and also Afghanistan in those conditions should be a handful. In saying that they are reliant on their openers, aren't they? So there is a possibility for England to get out that group, but it is a tough one. You'd probably say Australia and South Africa, wouldn't you, from that group?
Yeah. For me, from that one, I think it'll be Australia and South Africa, like you said, and from the first one, I'd say it'll be India and New Zealand.
Yeah, yeah, you'd say definitely India. Would you back against Pakistan at home? No, I know they're not playing India at home, but the other games, you think maybe Pakistan
Yeah,
could
I
win?
just think that they've overblown themselves by, like, we're going to come on to the Gillespie sacking as well. So yeah,
Ah, okay.
I just think that they've sold the tournament as too much in their home country, and
Mm.
I think a lot of pressure will be on them to perform. So
I think
I don't see them making the semifinals.
I think the only difference is that I've gone for Pakistan to go through that group, and you've gone for New Zealand. We agree with the
Yeah,
other three semi-finalists.
yeah. So at last, I think, and also one more thing, like this is still a probable schedule. So it just feels like what have they done after so
Mm.
many days? There's two
Yeah,
months to go, and all they release is a probable schedule and probable
yeah,
groups. Like it
yeah,
feels a bit, it all feels a bit ad hoc, and that's the way the ICC operates.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
yeah. So the last thing we're going to discuss on today is the South Africa versus Pakistan series, and the first thing which happened about this is that Jason Gillespie was sacked. So the
Mm,
timeline goes: ESPN Cricket Info reports on in November, I think they say that Gillespie will be sacked,
mm,
but PCB officially from their Twitter account
mm,
quote that and say this is false, and we completely refute that. Gillespie will not
mm,
be sacked, and he will tour South Africa.
mm,
1 month down the line, before the South Africa series, Pakistan
mm,
Cricket Board announces Gillespie has been sacked, and that is
mm,
how the Pakistan Cricket Board operates. And no, he was not sacked actually. I think Gillespie resigned because of many reasons. He said that Akib Javed, their new coach, wants too much power, and I think a lot of people
mm.
have alluded to this as well. He's power hungry, and
Kirsten's gone as well, hasn't he?
yeah, he's gone as well. There's a lot of
Mm,
miscommunication. He said that he signed up for a role in which he
mm,
was a selector originally, but he was
mm,
stripped of those duties. He was
mm,
also stripped of any say in the team. He was stripped
mm,
of any changes in the domestic structure. He was just made a match day strategist. And in
mm,
the end, I think there was this guy who was appointed with him. This I don't exactly remember his name, Tim Wilson or something like that, a support
mm.
staff from Australia. And he said that when they removed him for no reason at all, he felt this was it, and he removed. So he resigned, and I think this is just trademark Pakistan cricket.
Yeah. Oh, although they have been doing okay this series, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been doing okay this series, but that felt a bit odd to me. For the
Yeah.
South Africa versus Pakistan Test series, also, what did you make of that? By the way,
What about the about Gillespie and
yeah,
Kirsten?
yeah,
It's bad, but I think Gillespie was saying a lot of things were he was like kind of undermined, wasn't he? Like you said,
yeah,
but then their strategy in the Test series against England worked.
yeah,
So when they moved away to those kind of turners, they won. So I don't. In a way, Gillespie hasn't got too much to moan about. He won the series in the end thanks to their kind of intervention. Um, and he must have known it was going to be a bit chaotic anyway.
yeah,
And I don't know. I think the Kirsten one's a bigger blow because Kirsten is a proven top quality coach, and
yeah,
especially as he was the white ball coach, he'd won the World Cup with India.
yeah,
I think that was more of a blow than Gillespie going myself.
yeah. Um, so let's just come on to the teams now.
Mm,
I'll discuss the Pakistan team earlier.
mm,
So
mm,
they've got the usual people. I'm not going to say their names, but there's Hasibullah Khan, which I've heard a lot that he's a good batter,
mm,
and they've got in the bowling front they've
mm.
taken Mir Hamza and Khurram Shahzad, which I think is a good move because
Mm.
they've brought back Mohammad Abbas. I don't know if you remember him, but I
Yeah,
remember the 2020 England series, and he's a really good bowler in my opinion. So they did a
I've
good
seen him a
job
few
bringing him.
times for Hampshire
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
the County Championship.
yeah. And the South Africa team is some notable inclusions are Corbin Bosch, the all-rounder, Senuran Muthuswamy. I don't know why they're picking a spinner because apart from Keshav Maharaj, they're not gonna need him. And they've also Mafaka is in the squad,
Mm.
and
He's only young, isn't he?
yeah, and they've brought in Ryan Rickleton. But for me, Mafaka is the like notable selection here, and
Yeah,
South Africa just keeps on producing fast bowlers,
yeah,
right? Very good fast bowlers.
yeah. They really do. He he got a few wickets the other day, didn't he?
Oh,
So in the ODI against Pakistan. So I didn't see any of it though. I just read about it. So he does sound promising, but yeah, I'd like to see him in the flesh really.
okay. Um, and the first game is in Super Sport Centurion, and I think that the first game will obviously soon like I expect South Africa to win the series 2-0, and if Pakistan has any chance of winning at all, Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan have to step up. I think their bowling will do just fine. They've got good
Mm.
seamers, but their batting has to step up, in my opinion. But South Africa go in as clear favorites.
But aren't Pakistan leading though?
Huh?
Aren't Pakistan leading? I'm sure they won the other day.
Oh, I was talking about the test series that's going to happen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 100. Sorry, 100% in the Test series. You would expect South Africa to win that 2-0.
Yeah.
Uh, a Bass in those conditions might be a kind of an issue for South Africa.
Yeah.
But you would say South Africa 2-0, wouldn't you? Really, unless there's rain.
Yeah. So what are your predictions for the series? I'll go for,
Mm,
yeah, I'll go first. So the highest run scorer for me from both the teams, I'm not going to say for each team, I'm going to say for both the teams, is
mm,
going to be Tristan Stubbs,
mm.
and the highest wicket taker for me will have to be. Rabada, yeah, easy picks, right?
Yeah, I agree with you about Rabada. Um, well, I might go Rickleton to be a bit different, but 100% Rabada.
Okay. Yeah. So not much more to cover there. We've covered most topics here. And to everyone, Merry Christmas. Have a good holiday, and then Happy New Year as well if we don't record the next episode in time. So yeah. And Merry Christmas to you as well, not Happy Christmas. Anyway.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see you next week. Till then, bye.